Broadcasting from Brooklyn, New York, this is the Brooklyn Baritone Podcast. Good morning, it's morning where I am right now, or good afternoon or good evening whenever you're listening to this, and whoever's listening to this, I thank you. If it is your first time checking me out, thank you for checking me out for the minutes or the whole duration, and if this is not your first time, I appreciate the continued support. Well, here we are, still in the midst of this whole COVID thing. And it's 2020, just in case if you guys out there forgot what year it is or you want to forget what year it is, because 2020 came in with a whole lot of weight behind it. But, I'm not going to say needless to say. I'm going to need to say it because so much of us still have to go forward and get it. We have to go forward and look to improve ourselves and improve those around us and improve the situation around us. One step at a time, one day at a time. We can't ever forget that regardless of what's going on, we were not made with fear. We're not supposed to have fear in us. We can be cautious, we can have concerns, but that does not mean that stops our locomotive from going forward, even if we have to take one step at a time. I don't want to get so much into what's going on because you get that so much from the news. I'm going to talk about what I usually talk about, things to help you understand why we need to move forward spiritually, mentally, physically. And we're going to talk about something that affects in all those manners. My podcast today is about the de-evolution of convenience. Many things have made our lives more convenient. Yes, I'm utilizing some right now as we speak. This microphone, the means of production right here where you're watching me, the means of broadcasting this. These are some of the things that technological advances and other things have made our lives better, more productive, and we can unlock way more potential than we usually could have been doing 100 years ago, 200, 2,000 years ago. At the same time, we have to understand that many conveniences come with compromise. That's one saying that I like to say. The more convenience you have, the more compromise you're going to have. What that means is that this allows us to get into a mindset of kind of being in instant gratification mode, or even the fact of having some sort of entitlement after a while. It all depends on how we utilize these things. And many things that we've used, it has made our lives better, but it's also given us very short sight of the appreciation of how things are made, how things are done, what is required to do these things, and also even puts us out of touch with our fellow brethren and sistren around us. Okay, going into the de-evolution of convenience. Even though I talk about Elohim all the time, and I always will, I talk about Yeshua, that's the way. Any walk of life that you are in, you could always reflect on those words and it will guide you in every aspect of what you do. You eat, you think, you act, you speak, everything. So I'm going to quote this person, David Krakauer. He's probably more than likely on the opposite side of the spectrum when it comes to belief in creation and how things are put in order in this world. But I'm going to borrow a couple of words in a statement that he had here. I forget the website. I didn't annotate that, forgive me. He is an evolutionary geneticist, of complexity theorist, and a CEO of the Santa Fe Institute. He states that I'm most concerned about unthinking acceptance of convenient short-term solutions. I'm going to say that one more time. I am most concerned about unthinking acceptance of convenient short-term solutions. There's a lot of people who don't believe in Yeshua, don't believe in Elohim, the way it's presented to us in the book, but many of the concerns align with each other, are the same. And the problem is, yes, I was actually looking up statistics on laziness, and I came across this article here. And I found it very interesting, among other ones. But, again, a lot of things line up with, what people will call faith. And it's where we're headed. And many people know it. People who are actually aware enough, they know it, they see it, they feel it. The fact that we're kind of at the point where we want a snap solution for everything. I've come across this, in my own home. I've made some snap decisions. I try not to think like that. And some people may not agree with my way of going forward because I may take too long. And I admittedly may take too long because I want certain things to align properly, depending on what it is that I'm doing. And I like to have certain things planned out, whatever I'm focused on. I do have my procrastination moments, I do. But when I'm focused to do something, I want to do something, I want certain elements to be there so we can have the best possible outcome, okay? I don't want to ramble on too much. So continuing on with convenience and how we need to be careful with it. It's compromised our position with everything right now. Everything that we see that's, you could say, wrong or bad is one of the effects of us accepting too much things, compromising too much of ourselves and our standards. I believe that's where we are. There's another website. I didn't put that down. Shame on me. I believe where we are, 40% of Americans that could work don't work. It was from a website that I saw. I could see that being a possibility, but at the same time, I still got to kind of question that and, who they actually surveyed when. I believe it was circa 2017, if I'm not mistaken. But I believe it because there's so much people that have gotten lazier. That's part of the topic that I'm talking about, the de-evolution from convenience. We have gotten a lot more impatient, and going forward with the impatience part. I'm kind of rolling through all of my stats here. This stat was taken from marketingprofs.com, marketingprofs.com, and today.ugov.com. Almost 3,000 Americans 18 and over were surveyed in this survey. And it says 41% of them stated that technology made them more impatient. I very much believe that. And 26% of that amount said that they would wait 30 minutes or longer for a meal. Well, that's cool. That's all right. Because there are people out there that still have an appreciation of things and still haven't lost that personal connection. But we have to look at where we're at with so much things that we've allowed to happen. We could look at technology again as helping us greatly, but at the same time, so many people don't even go outside anymore. Many people don't even really venture out to just go out and get a meal because it's so easy now to call a Uber Eats, call a DoorDash, call a Grubhub, seamless. Now, many long time ago, before they even really had apps for smartphones, the smartphones I don't even think were even on the market totally yet. I used to be hanging out at my friend's house and it would be late night and the only things that would be open were Chinese food stores, and sometimes I'm I don't want Chinese food. I just would love to just order some juice. I just want some juice right now because I was a really big juice drinker. Still kind of am. I toned down a bit. But anyways, fast forward 15, 20 years later, I'm oh wow, look at this. We can just order just about anything we want and have it to our doorstep in our hands in minutes. That's good for people who really need it. You may be doing something you can't afford to go outside or wherever you may be at. It's a very long trek to a store or any other place or venue that may have food. That's good. But then when people are so used to having that, you tend to lose appreciation for the process for that product to be made available to you. You start to get impatient now. And no one wants to wait on lines, but many times it's necessary because whatever you're waiting on line for, there are people providing a specific service, and they can't just outright and just do things wantonly or not paying attention to detail and quality because people are impatient, but then they want the best. You can't have it both ways. We're going to have to learn to settle down and actually, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. There's some things that, you're going to have to wait for. And the fact that, we have a lot of abuse on this planet because of our desire to have things readily available in large quantities, mainly the Western culture here in America, good old US of A, and is more condensed here in New York City. And much people of the rest of the world followed in our footsteps where it still kind of amazes me with certain things. Because, I was looking at this one YouTuber's, the channel is called Truth Unedited. And exactly what I was going to talk about in this podcast, I actually saw a few things that he was talking about where so much people emulate the culture here. What kind of culture are we giving the rest of the world? You know, I talked about in my last podcast about how much resources it takes to fill up a grocery store or a BJ's or a Costco's, a Sam's Club or a Jetro, whatever supermarket or even bulk retailer out there. And the fact that so much people can have meat whenever they're ready. At one point, we didn't have meat like that. Even further, we haven't even had milk available like that. We had farmers, yes, but you remember milk is only produced from cows that have had calves recently. How are we able to produce so much milk and so much meat, you know? And these vast acres and acres and acres of quote unquote farms, if you want to call them that, I call them in industrial fields. It's destroying the earth because this is not meant for so much animals to be grazing, and you can't graze. So what do? They substitute feeds. These feeds in turn make the cow's internal organs not function properly. Hence where you could get a lot of like E. coli breakouts and stuff. That's where a good source of it comes from. And then also all of that concentrated methane, because cows poop and they fart. And all of that in one concentrated area can go and deteriorate the atmosphere and the ground around it. Same thing for pigs, same thing for chickens and all that stuff. Because of our insatiable appetite for these things. As opposed to living within our means, we now expect them to have things at stores at our convenience. Hence we get the term convenience store, because it's convenient. There's a compromise there. You're now abusing the land. You're abusing the atmosphere. Okay, now you're having, you know, these animals being born basically just so we can get its products for it, because we can't get enough. It was a time where, you know, people didn't have milk like that. People had milk, but the milk was better quality, one. And then also the quantity of milk was nowhere near the level that people are consuming it now. Okay, we have to really take a real good account of what we're doing and why we're doing it. Hence, this is why we have so much sicknesses, because we're eating too much of the wrong things. Too much of something can make you ill, and too much of the wrong things, that's going to have devastating impacts on us. Hence, this is one of the contributing factors of why we are running around scared to death of COVID-19, even though there are a lot of other things that need even more priority than COVID-19, the coronavirus. This is why, because we have a mentality that allows us to be sickened more, where we want more, where we abuse. Again, this is a mindset of domination, not dominion. I'm always going to say it's about dominion, not domination. It's about construction, not destruction. Destroying the lands around us, we're also destroying our bodies inside of us. So we can't possibly heal properly if we're having the wrong things inside of us. We can't possibly heal properly morally if we have the wrong thoughts, where everyone's running out getting toilet tissue and stuff. Usually in my household, we get Clorox wipes on the regular because we clean. We clean pretty decently. You know, at least if anything, once to twice a week, a good cleaning. And Lysol. We always hit the stock of that. Now, because of the panic of the pandemic, I had some choice thoughts and words for people who actually did go out there and take all these things and hoard these things. You know, one, like, you know, where were you guys before? Because if we had this kind of mindset before, we would have had the proper demand and the supply would have met it and everyone would have been good. And even when this did pop out with this whole COVID situation, everyone would have had the mindset, well, you know what, we're going to continue being safe and clean because we were doing it before. Now, because everyone's scrambling now because they're scared to death, now a guy like me who still wants to clean on a regular, I can't use a Clorox wipes. They made it convenient. But we have other means to do it. You know, it's just frustrating to see certain things that you're used to using because the mindset of everyone just wants to run out and get stuff. And again, it's in the sense of like not taking care of ourselves or taking care of our fellow person. Let me not get 50 cases of toilet tissue. Let me save some for someone else. Yeah, you want to take care of yourself, but at the same time, that's where our mindset is at. We got to get what we want, how much we want, when we want. You know, screw everybody else. That's where too much convenience gets you. You know, many people will probably give up eating meat if they realize the process involved in actually extracting the meat from a living animal. If they actually were involved with it, I could guarantee you at least 30% of people probably stop eating meat because they'd be turned off to it. Some people, they know about it, they're used to it, they want it, that's cool. We also have to understand the convenience or the compromise of all of our moral structure as well. The things we've allowed to creep into our minds. We have to understand this world was built on order, and part of that order is frequency, is energy, transmitting and receiving of anything and everything. This is why one frowsy person could walk into a room and just totally upset the balance of the energy of that room. You know, when you see someone who's exuding brilliant light about them, they're super positive and energetic, it does something to everyone around them. We can never discount that, ever at all. We have to understand our impact of what we do. We have to understand that we have a certain purpose within all of us, because I went looking for statistics of laziness, hence I got that quote, and 40% of Americans that could work don't. I also know there are a lot of people who still have ingenuity in them. They realize there's a spark inside of them. There's people who are a proper steward of themselves and the resources around them. They refuse to really give into mindset of panic. They refuse to give in of being lazy and expecting things to come to them. They would utilize all of these conveniences, whether it be technology or anything else, but they use it to build themselves up. Now, a lot of compromise that I've understood that happens why we are where we are is because we just want to do what we want. I've long been seeing a trend, even before I was born, and many people have come before me, people will come after me saying this, that America is nowhere near as great as it should be. There's a lot of beautiful things, and a lot of beautiful places, and a lot of beautiful people, definitely, that are here. But because we get to do what we want overall, and when I say that, it's the sense of we talk how we want. We think how we want. We get to eat what we want for the people who could afford to do so. We get to watch all types of things that I can call reckless. And we can't discern what's proper and what's not. When you have the degradation of a people, of a culture, the convenience of just doing whatever you wish, that's where you start to come into problems and roadblocks. And we don't realize this as a whole. We don't realize the fact that us not having limitations on what we're supposed to have and what we're supposed to be doing, it causes destruction. The same syndrome of when you see a spoiled child. A lot of people, they look really frustrated and vexingly at a parent that allows a child to be spoiled. You see a child jumping up and down, screaming, you could tell when the child usually gets what they want, or the parent is not stern and strict enough. And there's a point where people say, well, you're not supposed to discipline your kids. Well, we're seeing the outcome of that because we're now getting generations of people coming up without proper discipline, without proper understanding or appreciation of the conveniences that they do have and the process involved in getting things, and actually the process of them building themselves. And thus you have people who are used to getting what they want, when they want, source of a sense of self-entitlement. Now, people usually talk about millennials and entitlement. It's us as a whole that's caused this. There are many people who do have proper standards. There are people who do have appreciation. There are plenty of them out there. Plenty. The unfortunate part is it seems like so many people don't have. So much more people don't have. It usually takes one apple to spoil the whole barrel. And there's millions, if not billions, of people out there that are spoiling the barrel every single day. And unfortunately, some of these rotten apples have gotten into the workforce. They've gotten into positions of leadership, CEOs, directors, presidents, managers, even just a regular entry-level employee. We have these bad apples, these mindsets that are in politics. And there's so much behind the history of this country of what it's really grounded on. Many people may not understand it or know it or even accept it, but it is what it is. There's so much in the foundation of the origins of this nation, of what it is, that basically pushes forward chaos. it basically wants you to do what you want because they know that you have too much freedom, free will, and you do it in the wrong way, it's going to destroy everything. But I don't want to get too much far off topic. That's where we're at right now. We have to understand that too much convenience is not a good thing. We have to be responsible and proper civic minded. We have to have the mind that Elohim gave us with this. The problem is too much people want too much things now when they want it, and then the convenience of all this stuff have made it worse for us, where people don't really want to work as hard, or at least try to work on themselves as much. They feel they could just go through life and just work 9 to 5 and just watch a movie, have some sex, drink some wine, and hang out and eat until it's time to retire. There's so much more to life than that, but we have to be responsible and humble. We have to humble ourselves to the point to understand we are responsible for us. Everyone is affected of what we do and what we say, even if we don't know the people we're affecting. We have to be humble to the fact that there are rules in this world, in this life, that we have to adhere to, that none of us are above. We have to understand that there's physical rules, physical laws, moral laws, spiritual laws. Once we get an understanding of that much better, we would take a step forward in the right direction. Many of us out there, we get it. But the ones that don't get it, we have to be concerned about those. And we can't control people, but we're going to have to control ourselves. And hopefully by us dedicating ourselves to be better stewards, we can resonate that with other people who don't understand. Hopefully I can resonate what I talk about and what I know with others, and others can resonate with me, so have me have a better, broader picture, because I can be rigid at times. Anyways, I think this is more of a rant than a regular straightforward podcast. But anyways, thank you for listening. Whether you're in quarantine or whether you're in your car, whether you're jogging or whatever, I appreciate it. You could always check me out on my website. That's www.brooklynbaritone.com. It's www.brooklynbaritone.com. Don't forget the first dot. I'm also on my YouTube channel, Brooklyn Baritone. You could also catch me on Instagram and Facebook. You could also hear my podcast on the Google Play Store and the Apple iTunes Play Store. Anyways, thank you for listening. Hopefully it wasn't too much of a ramble to turn you off, but these are things that we have to be consistent of. But regardless, you hear from me next week. I want you guys to be blessed, stay safe, walk good, love you all.